How did Severance, a show set in a white office with no windows, become one of the most visually stunning shows in television history? A big part of it is because of its use of color. Severance is all about duality, the separation between work life and personal, the innie and the outie, and the show's color palette reflects this divide perfectly. Let's start with the Lumen offices. Notice anything about the colors here?
The blues and the greens were kind of going to be our severed world. And then the only color that ever gets introduced is usually heli. And it's completely off-putting and it shakes up the whole space.
The Lumen office is dominated by cold, clinical tones, white sprays, and pale blues and greens. These colors create a sense of sterility and control, emphasizing the oppressive nature of the workplace.
Welcome to Lumen, Heli.
It's almost like the employees are trapped in a sanitized, emotionless void. What makes this choice even more interesting is how blue is typically used in the real world. It's one of the most universally trusted colors, dominating industries where reliability and security are key. Big tech companies like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn have long relied on blue in their branding because it conveys stability, professionalism, and intelligence. Financial institutions and law firms use it for the same reason. Corporate logos are often bathed in deep blues to instill a sense of trustworthiness. Airlines, hospitals, and government agencies frequently use blue in their logos and interior designs to create a reassuring presence, as the color is associated with calmness, order, and authority. Even in UI and UX design, blue is a go-to color because it feels intuitive and non-threatening. Think of how many buttons, hyperlinks, and dashboards are blue by default. In Severance, this connection between blue and trust is key. For the severed employees, their entire reality is confined within Lumen, and the company wants them to feel safe, compliant, and unquestioning. The use of pale blues and soft greens may be designed to subconsciously reinforce a sense of security, making the employees less likely to resist or question their environment. To them, Lumen is their entire world, and the familiar, corporate-friendly use of blue could act as a psychological reinforcement, a subtle way to make the severed workers trust the company, even as it strips them of personal freedom.
Well, every time you find yourself here, it's because you chose to come back.
Now let's compare that to the outie world, the characters' lives outside of Lumen. Here we see warmer, more vibrant colors.
Up above would be more browns and yellows and warmer colors to get the contrast of the inside-outside world.
Warm yellows, earthy browns, and natural greens dominate these scenes. These colors suggest life, freedom, and humanity, everything the Lumen office suppresses. It's a visual reminder of what the characters are missing when they're severed. Now, let's talk about red. In a world dominated by cold, muted tones, red stands out, and it's used very intentionally. In Severance, red is the color that represents the outside, the world where outies live their lives. So when we see red in Lumen with innies, it generally symbolizes rebellion and danger. And there are countless examples of this. Petey borrows Mark's pinstripe robe. In this scene, Petey is struggling with his innie's memories, blending with his outies. His memories are reintegrating, and thus, so are the red and blue colors. Ricken's red book becomes a catalyst for change, planting rebellious ideas in Mark's mind and pushing him toward questioning the system. Heli uses the red fire extinguisher to try to break out. Petey's card to Mark is in a red envelope, almost as if he's offering him a red pill, just like in The Matrix.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Neo took the red pill to escape the system, but online, you're still trapped in one. The system that tracks your data, monitors your activity, and limits what you can access. If you really want to break free, this video's sponsor, CyberGhost VPN, is your way out. With CyberGhost VPN, all of your traffic goes through a secure VPN tunnel. Your IP address is hidden and your data is encrypted. It protects you from hackers and malicious websites. But you can also use it to access geo-restricted content. You know that situation when you're paying for the streaming service, but you can't watch a movie because it's not available in your country? Well, with CyberGhost VPN, you can change your online location and watch that movie without a problem. Changing your online location can also help you find better deals when shopping online. Some websites adjust prices based on your IP address, meaning you could be charged more just for where you're browsing from. With a VPN, you can switch your location and save money on flights, hotels, rentals, and other online services. CyberGhost VPN works on all platforms. They have an excellent Trustpilot rating and a 45-day money-back guarantee, and it costs less than 1 coffee per month. And with just one subscription, you can secure 7 devices, which means you can share it with friends and family. To check it out, head over to the link in the description. Finally, let's talk about black and white. They're everywhere in Severance, and they're deeply tied to the show's themes of duality and control. Black and white draws an interesting parallel with the binary nature of the Severance procedure, and the use of these two colors are especially prominent in Season 2, Episode 4, where all of the innies wear black, as Mr. Milchick and Miss Wong wear white. The show picked a hostile, snowy environment for a reason. We can see them in black surrounded by a sea of white. This is a really beautiful visual metaphor for duality, for change, and for being obscured or supplanted. It really ties in well not only with the concept of severance, but in the dual emotional natures of so many of our characters and how in many ways they are changing. It also transitions into how the show uses darkness and light, something Ben Stiller explained perfectly.
Something we had to really think about stylistically was trying to create tension out in the outside world.
When you're at work, you can't access outside memories. So in effect, that version of you is trapped there.
Well, it was just trying to create as much of a feeling of specificity of the world, the generic nature of the inside world I wanted to also have on the outside world.
I mean, not trapped, but...
But what?
And the reality is that Mark on the outside world is a lot less happy and is in a darker place than Mark on the inside world. So I thought it was important to try to show his world being colder, and it was really trying to show the isolation that he was feeling in the outie world. And I think in his apartment, there's just something that's really, really sad about that kind of environment because it's very transient and Mark's not really settled in his new life post Gemma. She's alive! Then the choices became really important of what you actually see in there and what you don't. It's almost is more personal in a way, filming him in that space because it's more subjective.
So if there's no dinner, how is it dinner?
And because I think of the rules at Lumen inside there, we're trying to stay very objective a lot of the time.
Now that we've covered the basics of what each color symbolizes, or at least the theories behind their meanings, let's talk about why these colors and this show look so good. The reason is simple. They are careful and selective with their color choices. We discussed this in our previous video, but let's quickly revisit it in the context of Severance. When a limited palette is used, individual colors take on more significance due to the psychological principle of color relativity. A single color surrounded by neutral or muted tones appears more vivid and emotionally impactful than it would in a busy, multicolored scene. In a predominantly gray frame, a lone red object becomes electrifying, commanding attention and amplifying its narrative importance. This is because the brain processes color contextually, and the fewer competing colors there are, the stronger each remaining hue becomes. This look is mostly created with production design, large room, 4 desks. That's the only description production designer, Jeremy Hindle, had to work with when he came up with the Severance office. The look of Severance was just as important as the story itself, setting the tone for its eerie, almost hypnotic world. The production design team knew they had to get it just right, especially since so much of the show is just people walking through hallways, something that could easily feel dull without the right atmosphere. One of the most obsessive parts of that process was finding the perfect shade of white for Lumen's offices. They tested around 50 different whites, laying them out and watching them through a projector for hours. In the end, only 2 worked, proving how much thought went into every tiny detail to make the world of Severance feel both ordinary and completely unnatural at the same time. After production design, the next big step in shaping the show's look is cinematography. The show's cinematographer wanted to experiment with lighting, but this was tricky since most of the series takes place in an office with white walls and no windows. While there are moments that allow for more expressionistic lighting choices, for the most part the lighting is quite limited. In this case, framing becomes especially important. Through different compositions and camera movements, they keep the cinematography visually engaging. If we had to highlight one shot, it would definitely be this moment where Milkshake confronts Mark, crossing the line both figuratively and literally. It's also a nice parallel to Parasite. But one episode visually stands out from the rest, Season 2, Episode 7. Directed by Jessica, the show's cinematographer, this episode shifts its visual style to separate past and present. Flashback scenes of Mark's life with Gemma were shot on film, a deliberate choice to add a nostalgic textured look that contrasts with the series' usual digital aesthetic. This distinction not only enhances the storytelling but also deepens the emotional impact of Mark's memories. To visualize this, we can take the average color of every frame and compare it to all the other episodes in the show. Here we can actually visualize everything we talked about in this video. Just by looking at these color scripts, you can guess at which location the action takes place, but a color that most people notice first is definitely red. These little red moments just stand out in comparison with the rest. We've already mentioned how red mostly symbolizes rebellion in Outie World, but recently Jeremy, the production designer, said that there's red only a few times in the show whenever there's a bit of real love. Knowing this, it makes the final shot even more interesting. Thanks for watching. Click the link in the description for an exclusive CyberGhost VPN deal, just $2.03 per month, for secure browsing and unrestricted access. It's risk-free, so give it a try.